Nothing humbles a secret affair faster than the cold, blinding light of reality. For 10 years, I believed I was living a quiet, comfortable life with my wife, Monica. We had a home, a routine, and 2 beautiful little boys. But then I picked up her phone to find some digital tickets, and my entire reality evaporated in a single second. Underneath a completely normal messaging thread was a digital paper trail of a quiet, calculated execution of my life. But I didn't know the most terrifying part yet. I didn't know that my boys, the ones I stayed up with during sleepless nights, were never mine to begin with. And she loved every second of the lie. Let's go back to the beginning. When Monica and I first started dating, I was completely honest with her. I did not want children. I grew up in a harsh, unforgiving environment, watching parents fail their kids daily. I was terrified of repeating those cycles. So, I drew a hard line. Monica wanted to be a mother more than anything, and for years, this was our quiet battleground. Eventually, my love for her wore down my fears. I decided to make the ultimate compromise. I didn't just agree to have children, I started saving aggressively, building a massive financial safety net to ensure they would never struggle. But when I told her the news, she didn't celebrate. She looked at me with a cold, distant exhaustion. At the time, I thought she was just tired of the fighting. I was wrong. She was already planning something else. Years passed. We had our first son, and then our second. I fell in love with being a father. I openly admitted to her that I had been wrong about parenthood. But behind closed doors, she was building a completely different narrative. The night I opened her phone, I wasn't looking for secrets. I just needed to forward some tickets. But a notification from a former family friend named Stuart popped up. Stuart had moved out of town years ago, or so I thought. I opened the chat. There were dozens of photos of our 1-year-old son. Then I saw a text from Stuart that made my blood run cold. He wrote, "Can I see some pictures of our second son?" My heart stopped. I tried to convince myself it was a typo. Perhaps he meant your second son. But as I scrolled upward, the agonizing truth laid itself bare. They had been sleeping together before our first child was even conceived. She got pregnant by accident, but she didn't care. In fact, she bragged about it to him. She texted him that it served me right because I didn't want kids anyway. She was using her own children as a twisted weapon to punish me. I had to pretend everything was normal while I planned my next move. I sneaked my boys out under the pretense of a fun day at the park. Instead, we went to a DNA clinic. The days spent waiting for those results felt like a slow, agonizing suffocation. When the email finally arrived, the hammer dropped. 0% probability of paternity for both of them. I stood outside my house, staring at the screen, feeling a dark, dangerous rage rising inside me. I needed an outlet. I drove straight to Stuart's house. He lived alone in a quiet neighborhood. When I knocked on the door, I didn't hide. He looked through the peephole, realized who it was, and slowly opened the door. He knew exactly why I was there. He tried to speak. He managed a quiet, "Hey." I didn't let him finish. I hit him with a devastating right hook. He crashed to the floor, and I got on top of him, letting years of silent betrayal fuel every single strike. By the time I stopped to catch my breath, his face was swollen, bloody, and broken. I asked if he wanted me to call the police or an ambulance. He said nothing. He knew he had crossed a line that the law couldn't protect him from. I walked out, leaving him in his own blood. I filed for divorce immediately. Monica didn't fight it. She signed the papers in absolute silence. But the court system didn't care about the DNA tests. In the eyes of the law, I was still financially bound. She got the house, and we split our savings. I walked away from the boys I had raised. It was the hardest decision of my life, but I refused to co-parent with the man who stole my future. Then, the true poetic justice began. A few months later, Monica reached out, desperate. She was struggling to pay the bills as a single mother. She told me that Stuart had abandoned her. It turns out, Stuart loved playing the fantasy of a father when it was a dirty secret. But when real responsibility knocked on his door, he folded. He spent her money, bought himself expensive toys, and vanished. She begged me to come over, just for one night, to make the kids happy. I looked at the woman who had systematically destroyed my life, and I laughed. I told her to leave my apartment and never look back. Sometimes the fire people light to destroy you ends up consuming them instead.